one test they felt real comfortable with. But when it got to hazmat, they said there was stuff in there. And we sat down and we went, means we didn't have PowerPoint. The two guys and myself went through all the instructors' chapters. And they said there still wasn't what they were supposed to have. So let's hope we can get through this. And if Chris can get in there, because I do know there's quizzes and tests in here. And so we can maybe, that's why I'm going to stick everything with this out of this book. The first 3 chapters in here, which I'm hoping to get done tonight, will be the awareness part of this book. So, okay? Define a hazardous material incident. Okay, now we've got to remember that hazardous materials are substances that pose something harmful to either yourself or the environment. Okay, so it's got the harmful characteristics. In the United States, they call it the hazardous materials, hazmat. If you go to Canada, it's basically the same thing, only they call it dangerous goods. Also in here now we have weapons of mass destruction. So in some of those weapons, we end up with chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosives. Those are all part of weapons of mass destruction. Okay? Causes mass casualties. That's what they're looking for with these, is mass casualties and damage. They pose unreasonable risks. Anytime we have hazmat or weapons of mass destruction, it's an unreasonable risk that we have to take. Is an emergency involving substance that pose unreasonable risk to people, environment, and property. Okay? So you got to remember those. And what's always first?
People.
People. Life safety is always first. Now we get into some of these hazmat incidents, and there's always something that causes them. Okay? They don't just always happen by themselves. There's usually something that causes them. And some of this stuff is, we could have human error. Somebody could do something wrong and spill it. Mechanical breakdowns or malfunctions, making it leak or something. Container failures. Transportation accidents. Deliberate acts. Okay, so if we get into those deliberate acts, we'd be getting into something terroristic or something like that. Chemical suicides. Okay, that's another one that we have to watch for. Container failures is one way that a hazmat incident occurs. And in order to find out what's in that truck, you have to see the placards on the side. Does all that stuff get placard? Some of it has to have so much in there to be placard. Some of it, any amount has to be placard. So it's something that the DOT has got figured out, okay? You pull up to this, what can you see right now? Other than something leaking, okay? Can you see any placards on that trailer? From this angle, no, okay? Sometimes these hazmat incidents are more complex than any other type of incident. Present a variety of dangers, sometimes in even small quantities. Okay? Take radioactive stuff. Does it go through here? Pay attention because it does. How many of these medical trucks go through? A lot of those have radioactive in them. Okay? Oh, Jesus, just slipped my mind. How about explosives? Okay? We'll get into the ERG book here sometime during this. Okay, that's going to show you there, because what do we have in Iowa now? That's classified as explosives. Fireworks. Okay, and we also found out down at Ames, they're going to take the control of the fire chief away from inspecting the fireworks stands. That's all gonna be taken by the state now. I said, good, you guys wanted it, you guys can have it. Okay? I don't know how many you guys had down here last year, but I had 8 or 10 of them in my area. And there was probably only 2 in buildings. Everything else was in tents. I think that's a bad example. Okay? Some of this hazardous material, it can be really difficult to contain or control. Depends on what form it's in. Sometimes it takes specialized equipment to do something, special procedures. We're going to have special personalized equipment to protect ourselves, PPE. Sometimes it's difficult to detect. Some of the gases are odorless. Okay? How does natural gas come original? Odorless. What do they do to make it stink?
Add
Mercaptan.
They put mercaptan in it to make it stink. So it could be in one of the transmission lines that doesn't have the mercaptan in it yet. So it could be anywhere. Okay? So that's just something we have to do. Sometimes it takes special monitoring equipment to find some of that stuff. Everybody here have gas monitors? Yeah, we're down to 1. we always take 2, and we got 2 different kinds, and we compare them. Our newest one has a part wrong, and we can't get it replaced, so we just ordered a brand new one. And the hazmat team out of Sioux City told us to add 1 more gas to it. So we got cyanide coming, so we'll have a 5 gas. Okay, it's about $2,600.
What did they tell you to add what did they tell you to add that second, or that?
Overhaul, because the cyanide's usually in a house fire where you're overhaul. And everybody wants to take their gear off, and we don't want to do that. If you're going to do that, you better be monitoring the air. Okay, but that's what they want. They thought about the cyanide that should be in there. So, because you know where cyanide's from, right? Where do they use cyanide? They strap you in the chair.
Yeah.
They shut the room up, and you go bye-bye. Yeah, it's in the gas chamber. So we don't want anything to do with that, and we want to make sure we're covered for that.
Oh, it's like a marriage.
Hazardous material incidents are not always clearly defined before first responders arrive. You must be constantly alert of the presence of hazardous materials. So when we get on scene and we see something like this, the first thing we're going to do is what? We're going to go to that ERG book and we're going to look it up and we're going to see what it is before we get too close, okay? Whether involved or not, the mere presence of the hazardous material may change the incident's dynamics. If you have a hazmat incident, is it always going to stay the same all the way through? No. We don't know what that stuff's going to do, what the weather's going to do to it, anything like that. So this thing is constantly changing, and there's never going to be 2 the same. So just remember that we're always changing. So we always have to change our plan, our strategy. Hazmat first responders must safely respond to hazmat incidents. Now you got to remember, we're talking about awareness, so what does that tell you we need to do? We just need to be aware of what to do. Can we do some of this stuff? As long as we don't get into the product, okay? But mostly in awareness, we're going to be identifying and evacuating, okay? You must understand what the hazardous incident is. You have to understand what your role is that you have in that incident. Know your limitations. Don't do what you're not supposed to do. And you take it till you can't go any farther, then you hand it off to somebody else. Okay? Dickinson County is contracted with Sioux City Hazmat. So if we have an incident, that's who's coming, is Sioux City, okay? Because the county has contracted with them. Your first responders, we have laws and NFPA standards. NFPA 1072, standard for hazardous materials, weapons of mass destruction, emergency response personnel. That's your professional qualifications. Okay? But we also have NFPA 472. That's our standard for competence of responders. Okay? And then also in NFPA 473 that we have, that's the competency set for EMS people. Okay? So those might be some numbers worth remembering. I don't know how many's taking notes, but if I go too fast, let me know, okay? Those, again, like I said, with the 1072, they'll meet or exceed the OSHA requirements for awareness, operations, and technicians. So that's getting into the people above, the specialists and stuff.
So what are we really gonna follow under the 473 then, for EMS?
Are you on the fire department or rescue? Fire department will go underneath the 472. Okay? The EMS personnel, that would be like ambulance people and stuff like that. We have 3 training levels. Addressed in this manual, awareness level, personnel perform limited defensive actions. Okay? So that's what's going to be these first 3 chapters here, is going to be awareness. Operations is responders perform defensive actions. Now we can't go up and plug anything, that goes into technicians. But we can cover sewers. We can divert it from streams. We can separate it in streams, whether it's heavier or lighter, whatever. The thing is, as we're doing this with operations, it's going to be as long as you're not in the product. So don't go up and step in the product to put some dirt down to stop it. You got to stay ahead of it and out of the product. Operation mission specific. Responders may be trained to perform additional defense and limited offensive actions. NFPA also identifies response personnel. This is what they're going to perform is more complex operations. We get into like technicians, specialists. Those are ones that's going to be out there doing the plugs and stuff in the tankers and the barrels. You got your incident commander that's going to be running the show. Materials officers, your safety officer. You better have a safety officer if you have a hazmat incident. And your specialists are the ones that are going to be looking things up and telling you what chemical does what. Okay, this API can help responders devise a 4-step response. Anytime we have a hazmat incident, we can turn it into a 4-step. We can analyze it, which means that we're going to use the book. We're going to try to identify what's spilled. We're going to plan it. We don't go into any hazmat thing blind. We're going to plan it out step by step by step what we're going to do. Okay? Because this is one where we don't want to make a mistake. Implement it. We're going to actually have somebody do it, whether it's, and most likely this will be the hazmat team's problem. They will go in and do the implement. Evaluate, we're going to look at that and see what we could have done better, what we should have done, what we didn't do. One thing you got to remember, when hazmat comes, they're going to expect us to set up decon. So I think decon is one of your hands-ons. Now they have hands-on for hazmat. So that might be one of them, is setting up decon. so. Okay, not all aspects of that API is gonna be addressed in the awareness level. As the responsibilities increase, that's gonna take us up into operations. And then some of this gets even farther ahead than that. So some of this stuff we can't do in awareness. Each fire emergency service organization should have written procedures describing appropriate actions consistent with the level of training. So don't do something you're not trained to, okay? And then there's in Appendix C, maybe Chris can get that off for you guys so you can see that. It's a written sample. Awareness level personnel, that's personnel who are trained and certified to be at the awareness level. In course of normal duties, may be the first to arrive at and witness this hazmat incident. So that's gonna be your first responders. And they're gonna be expected to assume the following responsibilities. We've got to recognize it, and we got to look at what potential presence it has at the incident. So we got to look at that so we know what we're doing with. We have to protect ourselves and others from the hazards. Communicate the information to appropriate authorities. Call for appropriate assistance. We need to establish scene control by isolating hazardous areas and denying entry. Awareness level responders must be aware of clues to help them recognize hazardous materials. We need to look at the location and see if we can figure out what should be there, what shouldn't be there. Okay? We're gonna look at what the container shapes are. Sometimes that'll tell us. Transportation or facility markings, metering devices, sensory input such as odor, taste, and appearance. Okay, later on they'll tell you that taste and odor is not something we want to do. Okay, because sometimes you're gone. Okay, but they actually put that in here. The awareness responders are not responsible for planning the response. This is going to be something that's in your SOPs, SOGs. It's going to be predetermined what you're going to do. It may provide some initial actions that you need to take. Okay, so you need to go back and you need to look at your SOGs. Awareness personnel play an important role at hazmat incidents. Initial action can affect the course of the incident for better or worse. If we do something wrong on that initial action, we could make it more serious. Okay, so we need to make sure we're doing the right thing. We're expected to transmit information to the appropriate authorities. So that's whoever the hazmat team is. We got to get the right information to them so they know how to answer the question. Call for appropriate assistance. The hazmat team. How long does it take the hazmat team to get here?
2 hours.
3.
About an hour and a half, because they come out of Sioux City and they don't come lights and siren. Okay, they got to get their crew ready, so it's probably closer to 2 hours. Has anybody ever called there? Anybody ever called hazmat? What did you have for a response?
As far as how many showed up?
What? Talking to them on the phone. What did you think of that procedure?
A lot of questions.
Yeah.
I think the initial phone call was almost 15 minutes.
Yeah, they ask everything. They probably wanna know what the name of the last dinosaur that pooped on the property. I mean, they wanna know everything. We had an incident downtown Spirit Lake. They cut a Freon line in the basement. There's no windows in the basement. So we got Freon in the basement. So I called them up to find out how to get rid of that. So I finally got, a guy called me, or no, I called, comm center called down, told them to call me back. They never called, they never called, they never called. Somebody wrote the number down wrong. So comm center called down again and they called me right back with the right number. And then I got to talk to a technician. And he said how to get air down there, push it back out, and clear it that way, and then go down with your monitor and make sure there's oxygen down there instead of oxygen deficient. So that's things that, they ask you a lot of questions. How much, they want to know how much Freon was down there. I said, I don't know, whatever's in a central air. I said, I don't know how much that is. But they were pretty good. I mean, they gave me the answers once they got back to me, and they apologized for having the wrong number. But somebody wrote the wrong number down for them to call me back. So, but that's things, we can do that. We can initiate protective actions. We can start evacuating people, okay? We can start sealing off the area so nobody can get back in, okay? Isolate hazardous areas, deny entry, okay? And you'll find out when you start evacuating people, there's a lot of people that don't want to leave their house no matter what. So you have to deal with some of that stuff, so.
What do you do if they don't want to leave? Can you make them?
Law enforcement, they can make them. Yeah, because some of that stuff, and some of it, you know, some of it you can shelter them in place. It just depends. You just have to find out what the hazard is. But if you need them out of there, then the law enforcement can get them out of there. Okay? I'm gonna make sure I'm covering everything here. Okay, then when we move into the operation level, which we'll do here probably on Saturday, we're gonna have to respond to the hazmat release as part of normal duties, so we're gonna look at and ID the potential hazards. So there again, we're gonna get into, how many's ever been into the ERG? Has everybody at least looked at it once? Okay, it's not a frightening book, it's actually pretty easy. But we need to do that. We need to ID the response options, okay? We gotta look at planning a response to mitigate, control the release, okay? Evaluate the progress of the actions taken. So once you have an incident action plan in place, it might change. It depends on the incident. It might get worse, so if it gets worse, we have to do something different. Okay, so the plan always changes. We're going to look at the type of container involved. Sometimes that'll tell us what we have. Hazardous material involved. There again, we'll go back to the ERG. Hazards presented by the material. Potential behavior of the material. Sometimes when that material gets out, it does different things. Okay, so we just have to watch for that. Ops responder should determine where the release has occurred. Okay, what part has it failed? Analyze the surroundings. Look at the conditions. Determine the location. How much has been released, if you can tell that. Okay. Once you have an understanding of what the material involved is and the hazards presented, then you can begin to plan. So you can get some kind of a response, okay? So and there again, that's going to be based on your training and your SOPs predetermined procedures, so we always have to look at what you have in writing, okay? Now see, I'm lucky in Spirit Lake, we don't have an ordinance for the fire department, so it actually says in the city ordinance that hazmat is the police department. So now we've had 2 hazmat incidents in a row, and I keep giving the cops a heck of a time because I said, it's you guys' problem. They say they disagree with me highly. But yeah, so it just depends on how it's written up for you, okay? We gotta ID the response, understand the task. We have to understand it. We can't go in there by the seat of our pants. You gotta really know what you got. Protect themselves. There's always safety in there. We're always into safety, okay? Make sure we have the right PPE on, okay? Make sure it's gonna do what it's supposed to. Make sure that we have something for emergency decon, okay? And we know what that is, right? Emergency decon. If we have somebody in the hazardous material and we get them out, we have to emergency decon them and get them out of there, okay? So we gotta make sure decon's set up so we can do that emergency stuff. In order to implement a response, we have to establish incident management system. How many here on your fire departments are doing incident command? You guys do, right? We do. Actually, once you start doing it, it's kind of hard to do it the other way. But it's always nice to have that incident commander. And like I said, if you get into an incident, a hazmat incident, you better have an incident commander when the hazmat team gets there. Okay? Establish scene control. If it's nasty stuff getting away, we need to secure it somehow, whether law enforcement does it or whatever, but we have to secure it. We need to do protective actions such as evacuations, follow safety procedures. Here again, we got PPE, but we got to make sure we do it in the right order. Make sure we have the right suit on. Void the hazard. Perform emergency decon. ID and preserve potential evidence if it's a crime scene. Okay, that gets real important if it ever goes to court. This is mission-specific specialized competencies. They're going to have mass decon, technical decon, evidence preservation, sampling, product control. They're going to air monitor like crazy. They're going to monitor and sample the air. We're going to get victims rescued, get them out of there, and then we're going to respond to look at laboratory incidents. Now, do we have any of those around here? Yeah, we got them all over the place, okay? So, watch out if you get into those drug labs, okay? This would be your operation mission specific people. These guys are the ones that are trained to put on these special suits. A while back, we had Sioux City up, and they had some practice suits that they actually let us get into, fully encapsulated. And you better be really good if you put one of those on, because it's really freaky. Because you gotta plan yourself out, so you go in, perform, and you gotta have enough air to come back out, get decon before you get undressed. And you're all in a suit. There's no bypass to the outside. So if you run out of air, you run out of air. Okay? So we just have to watch that. But that's gonna be your operation mission specific training. Okay, that's gonna be your technicians and such.
A level up from those suits. Did you look at the full suits?
had one in my truck. And I'm fat, so you can imagine how all that was to get in that.
How much extra?
Hazardous materials can hurt you in various ways. Okay, they may affect the health if they are contacted or that they get into your body. They may cause harm by their behavior and or physical properties. So if we're going to safely mitigate some of these incidents, you have to understand the variety of hazardous materials that you're going to encounter. Look at the potential health effects. Some of the physical hazards associated with them. You got to understand, that's what we just did. Injury, loss of life, environment, property loss. That's things that's going to happen with hazardous materials. Acute. So this is some of the health effects some of those hazardous materials have. There's acute, single exposure, several repeated exposures to a substance within a short period. Okay, that's acute. Chronic, that's going to be long term. Okay, reoccurring. Yeah, the acute health effects are short-term effects that appear within hours or days, such as vomiting or diarrhea. Okay, the chronic stuff is going to be long-term. It might take years to see some of this stuff. Okay, so some of the ways that hazardous materials get into your body, they're also called routes of entry. It's also routes of exposure. The main ways hazardous materials can enter the body and cause harm. There's inhalation, ingestion, absorption, and injection. Okay? The inhalation, that's an exposure route, breathing hazardous materials through your nose or mouth. Can that happen? Yeah, if we don't use air monitors, we could walk into it and not know exactly where it is. Okay? That's like if we got a gas line that's burning, do we put it out? How come?
So you know where it's at.
That's right. If that thing's burning, you know where it's at. Do we go throw a torch in it if it isn't?
No.
Not unless you want to say bye-bye to all your equipment and your guys. So if it's burning, don't put it out because you know where it's at. Okay, but we don't want to breathe this stuff in. Okay, so that's why we have SCBAs. Some of the stuff we breathe in, vapors, smoke, gases, liquid aerosols, fumes, even suspended dust we can breathe in. Okay, and then that can have a hazard on us. Anytime we have anything that's an inhalation threat, make sure we have respiratory protection. Make sure you got that SCBA on. Inhalation is the most common exposure route. That's how we're going to get most of the stuff from hazmat is we're going to breathe it in. Ingestion, eating and swallowing hazardous materials through your mouth. So we go into a house fire, we fight it, we come out, and it's time for rehab. So you sit down and you grab something to eat and something to drink. How many wash your hands?
Always.
How many wash your hands? How many wash your face? We carry wet ones in our trucks now. We're really getting into this stuff, and cancer is coming out really big with us. Okay? So we want to make sure that if we're eating something to rehab, make sure you wash your hands and your face. Get that stuff off from you.
An idea, you should probably give some to Mike, air it, so when he goes and gets stuff. That
That
way,
would be a good idea, wouldn't it?
because the last one I did rehab on, yeah, nobody did that.
We'll have to bring that up to him.
Just an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of those in his trailer would be a really good idea too, because and
Well, he's got everything else in that trailer, you gotta have that in there.
I can tell you for sure that he does not.
We'll work on him, we'll work on him. Right now, he doesn't have any power, so we're not gonna bug him right now. So, yeah, so just remember, poor hygiene after handling hazardous materials can lead to accidental ingestion. Hand washing is very important.
There was a case in a cruise, right, last week?
What's that?
A cruise line, everybody got poisoned last week.
Yeah, I didn't catch all of that.
Yeah, I think some food poisoning on the cruise line last week.
It's beginning to think,
3,000 people were like
I don't wanna go
puking
on a
all over.
cruise.
Wow.
That's a mess.
You know, we went on one and it was really a good time, but then you hear of all the terrible stuff that happens. Like, wow, we must have got the lucky boat. So, anyway, back to this, then we have absorption, process of taking in materials through the skin or eyes. Gotta remember, your eyes are mucus, so that's the first place it goes, okay? It passes through there easily, the mucous membranes, are areas where the skin is the thinnest. So we're talking about eyes, nose, mouth, wrists, neck, ears, hands, groin, underarms, okay? Many of these poisons are easily absorbed into the body, okay? Others can easily enter the body as easy as touching a contaminated finger to your eye. Okay, so we gotta remember that, okay, because it's really important. I just talked to one guy, he was on the department in Lamar's. I've heard him talk, I'm gonna try to get him up here sometime. He got throat cancer. And it comes back to, we put our hoods on, pull them down here and wait till we need them. So that hood's sitting right here all the time. So if there's anything in that hood, it goes right into your throat. Okay? And so we've got the policy now that we get done out of a fire, if it's dirty, that hood goes into the wash bucket and you grab a clean one. So we're doing that. We've got the wipes on the truck so we can wipe off. Okay, we wanna keep that, we wanna cut that cancer out as far as we can. Okay? We gotta admit, we're in one of the most hazardous deals that we ever have to do. If we're gonna get into something, we're the ones that's gonna do it. Okay? So just remember, we gotta watch ourselves. Then we got injection. Anytime we have sharp objects, we can get poked. Taking in materials through punctures of the skin. Protection from injections must be consideration when dealing with any sort of contaminated object. So, where are we gonna find something that we're gonna get poked on? How many times do we crawl through a house fire and there's something sharp that we crawl through? Okay, there's always nails or something laying in there, broken glass. So just make sure that we don't get that stuff so we can get a cut or get it injected into us, okay? Okay, 3 mechanisms of harm. Different way to categorize hazards presented by hazardous materials, such as toxicity or physical hazards. Some hazards may be unrelated to hazmat itself. 3 primary mechanisms of harm. We have energy release. We have corrosivity. It's been a long day, man. I've been waiting for a lion from 7 o'clock this morning till 3:30 to get to a job so we could leave the trucks. So I'm not in a very good mood right now. And the other one is toxicity. Okay, so that's 3 mechanisms that we're gonna have to have harm. Energy release and hazmat incidents present the greatest threat. There's 6 types of energy release. Energy release is the greatest threat at a hazmat incident. If we have a cylinder that releases, you know, that's the greatest threat we're gonna have, is because not only that chemical's coming at us, but part of that container's coming at us, okay? Any hazardous materials will release energy due to their chemical or physical properties or the way they're shipped. So we end up with some of these releases, we can get heat, it can be a mechanical release, pressure, radiation, chemical, electricity. Okay? Heat, thermal. They're common at a hazmat incident. Hazmat materials can cause temperature extremes. Okay, we're talking about high temperatures, but we're also talking about low temperatures. Some of the gases that are transported are extremely cold. Okay? Fire or explosions involving flammable liquids, explosive materials that can burn. Environmental factors such as hot weather can cause heat illness. Okay? Heat and lack of heat, that's both harm. Elevated temperatures, exothermic reactions, hot weather, cryogenic liquids. How many of those do we see going through here? Cryogenics. Liquid oxygen, liquid nitrogen. What else do they use around here?
Ammonia.
Ammonia. So anyway, that's some of the stuff. Cold temperatures. Objects pose mechanical energy due to their position or motion. Okay, we can be, any of the first responders can be injured by flying or falling objects. So if we have something that fails, we're going to be having flying objects coming around us. Okay, how many's ever seen the video with the propane tank going off? What made it go off? Usually flame impingement, and that heats up the tank, that heats up the liquid propane. What happens to that? You heat liquid propane up, it turns to gases. The release valve can't
Handle that much.
handle that much because they never fill a tank clear full. Okay, so you get that pressure. Okay, so then where that heat is, that's the weakest part on the tank now. They used to tell us just the ends would go. I don't count on that anymore. Elbert City, they went in all four directions. Okay, so just remember, if it's been flame impinged, evacuate. Okay. We can also have some friction injuries, abrasions, blisters, burns, something like that. So that's some of the mechanical stuff. Pressurized materials, a lot of hazardous materials are stored under pressure. Okay? How can we tell what tank is under pressure?
That shape.
By its shape. What's different with their shape? What's a propane tank look like?
Cylinder.
It's well, the bigger ones. They're always rounded on the ends. Okay? So anything that's got a rounded end like that, that's gonna have pressure in it. Okay? If it does release, it can release violently. The materials may expand very rapidly. Depends on how much of flame impingements on it. It can expand rapidly. Spread that hazard quickly over potentially a large area. Okay, so just remember that stuff is there. Electrical hazards. Electricity may be present in the hazmat incidents. We need to be able to get a hold of the utilities. They have to have energized containers so they can take care of it. We need electrical equipment, portable generators, portable tools. That's all stuff that can short out and go bad, so that we have to monitor that. We were sitting on a place up there this morning from 7 o'clock this morning. We had a tree branch on primary in the backyard. The tree's on fire. We go up to look at it, and we have a rabbit that's bleeding and paralyzed and won't move. So what does that tell you?
There's some power flowing.
The electricity's coming down that branch, coming down that tree, and has energized the ground. You think we could get a line there any faster? We got them there at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
From 7?
From 7 in the morning. I finally sent everybody home, and 3 of us sat there with 2 trucks, so nobody got in that backyard. The cop was gonna come, we were gonna leave it to the cop, and he was just gonna set some cones out. Like, yeah, let's, wherever you're dancing, make sure that's the first one you set, because, but, yeah, so electricity can be, and you wouldn't even thought it would've came down that tree, but it did. Matter of fact, once they pulled the fuse out, the tree almost quit smoking. You could almost tell when they dropped the fuse out.
Surprised it didn't blow the fuse.
Yeah, you know, really, the way it was arcing in that tree and smoking, you're really surprised it didn't blow the fuse. It should have. But yeah, it was just forever to get them there. So this is stuff I was gonna go through today. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna learn this together, so, but, we're gonna make it through, but yeah, so that stuff does happen. One other thing to remember too, that if you got a wire down, and make sure you stay the heck away from it, but what if it's down a ways and there's chain link fence all the way down there? Make sure you don't touch that chain link fence either, because that'll take it out. So, yeah, the guys got there, told them what we had. Oh, paralyzed rabbit, huh? Yeah. Oh, we better kill it. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. They went over and killed it, and then they came up to it, and then the other 2 guys came up to it, and they talked for about 2 minutes, and they come back and said, yeah, we can go home now. We didn't even put the tree out. They said they could put it out with their fire extinguishers. So, but anyway, that was my day.
So how's the rabbit faring?
Yeah.
Extra crispy.
You know, that's just like you asked somebody, you said, how do you know the squirrel got into the transformer? Because he's laying on the ground looking like this. You know he was in the transformer. Okay. Sometimes we got chemical energy that's released when this material goes under chemical reactions. We could end up with flames or explosions. Some material acts violently when exposed to water. What's one that reacts with water? It's on some of the cars.
Magnesium fire.
Magnesium. Have you ever shot water on a magnesium part on a car? What's it do? It gets real excited. And it gets real bright. Yeah, so that's just some of the stuff. Some of the sodium stuff, we don't want to put water on that stuff. So if you see a sign going into the building and there's a W with a line through it, there's a good reason not to put water on anything there because it'll react. So just remember that. Not all chemical reactions result in flames or explosions. Some chemical reactions release heat, some use heat, some create new hazardous materials with hazardous differing from original materials. So once a couple of these things get together or they add heat, it changes into a different chemical. Okay? So that's why I'm not going on to be a specialist. That chemical stuff can just stay right there. So that's what we pay Hazmat for. Okay? Potential for radiation, energy emitting particles or waves. We can find those medical centers, industrial operations, nuclear power plants, research facilities, and this is where we're going to find where the terrorists are going to try to attack. To me, attacking something radioactive like this, there's such a security on some of that stuff. I'd be more afraid of somewhere like Iowa State that has all of the biochemicals down there, the anthrax and all that stuff. I would see an attack happening there way before something with radiation.
Just
Okay.
the clearance to get into a nuclear power plant takes 6 months.
Yeah, I'm sure of that. Have you applied for that or?
No, I've had friends that worked at them,
Okay.
and I never saw the need to go to one.
I don't know how close the nearest one is, but it's far enough away from me.
It used to be Omaha,
Was there one in Omaha?
Blair.
Oh, sure. Sure.
When
They-
the river went up last
Yeah, they
time. that's a big
decommissioned
deal.
that like 4 years ago.
Okay. Alright.
That was fun when they do their testing. You'd be down at like Snyder's Bend, the public park or whatever, right there on the river, and huge loudspeakers go off telling people to evacuate. It's just a test, but
Yeah, that'd be a heck of a test to walk into, huh?
yeah.
Corrosive chemicals, they can hurt you if you contact the skin or the body. And one thing you gotta remember about anything corrosive, you know, it may damage your tools and equipment too. So we gotta watch out for that. We gotta remember that, a lot of this corrosive stuff is used in industry, okay? This is gonna go back a ways. Before Polaris moved in to the Crystal Tip building, we went on a tour out there and they had a bath where they dumped the parts in the acid. Now, what did they always tell you in science class? Never put water in acid, right? Guess what they had right over this great big huge vat?
Big sprinkler.
2 sprinkler heads. So I said, stay away from this area if the sprinkler system goes off, so. But just remember, corrosive, you know. There's toxic substances, chemical and biological substance that cause sickness, illness, injury by doing damage on the molecular scale. That's anytime it gets in contact with the body, that's considered toxic. Okay, that's fast acting. Okay? Toxins can cause damage to organs and other parts of your body. We've been doing this just about an hour. You guys want to take a quick break? Take 10 minutes.